What's going on, party people? Welcome back to the DFS 5-Pack. It's your host, Ryan and Matt. This is not going to be a quote-unquote picks video, guys. What we want to do today is we just want to talk to DFS in general. I don't know about you, Matt, but I probably get anywhere from 50 to 200 emails, tweets, Facebook messages per day. And so we get a lot of questions. Some of them are about us. Some of them are about DFS. Just figure we'll do kind of a little bit of a question and answer period. We just picked out about 10 questions that we get all the time and talk through them with you guys. Hopefully it lends you some insight to not only DFS, but who we are as people as well a little bit. In the meantime, guys, though, if you are interested in becoming part of our DFS family, Matt and I are the quote-unquote leaders. We've got a few Facebook admins who do some awesome work. Just help us out. Just good people doing, nice guy work for us. And then we got, hundreds and hundreds of customers who come in here. A lot of them want to share their opinion. A lot of them want to talk DFS. We're trying to create like a community or family. I got my boy Landon, who designed the website. He's going to update the front page today to show you kind of like a basic basketball write-up for what we do. But if you want to be part of the family, guys, we'd love to have you. Monthly, annual is still on sale today. Lifetime, you get all the sports we cover, which is baseball, basketball, and football. And then we do daily podcasts that are longer and more detailed for members only. Today, though, we just did one for everybody because it's a short 2-game slate. But normally every day we do maybe like an hour-long show just for paying customers where we go through everybody like position by position.
Yeah, it's funny. Our video still today was like an hour long on the 2-game slate. So honestly, me and you could go forever.
Yeah, 43 minutes. Not, we're a little short of an hour.
Excuse me.
There you go. Exactly. So much ado. First question that I wanted to bring up is one that I get all the time. I bet you I answer this question once a day. So I figure if we talk about it in the video, maybe it will help. What contest should I play? I've gotten that one thousands of times in my life. So first off, guys, I want to start by saying there are no magic contests. You're not going to go in and find one where the cash line for NBA is 220 on the regular compared to where maybe it's 255 on the regular in some other slates. Some contests will be a little better than others, but it's impossible for Matt or I to answer that question for you because we all have different bankrolls. 2, we all have different goals. And 3, we're all going to play DFS a little bit differently. For me, for what I like to do personally, in NBA and NFL, I really focus on cash games, whereas in MLB, I play a lot more GPP. I play GPP in all 3, but it's mostly cash games for NFL and for NBA. So I will play double ups, single entry. The more content, the more people in the double up, the better, because I get a larger cross section. Then it's more likely to play true to what the ownerships are going to be. So if I can find a single entry, like the $25 single entry last night, I think was like 16 or 1,800 people. That's a good contest to me for double ups for cash games. For GPP, I play smaller GPP. So there's a lot of days where they have these like $2 contest where it's 297 people, and I'll mass enter that one 6 or 7 times a lot of the days. Now, I wish they had those with like $5 or $10 entries, but I just don't find them out there. And then there's some days if I want to play a little bit bigger, then I'll play some larger dollar entry ones in GPP. But I prefer smaller entries for GPP because I want to maintain my bankroll. I would love to win 50 or 100 grand, but I also know that realistically chasing that stuff is a bad long-term investment. So that's what I do. But we all have different goals and different bankrolls. So we're not gonna pick out the same thing. Like I know you used to love head-to-head just because of the simplicity it gave you for monitoring your contest. You had more fun playing it that way.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat, and this goes into another point we'll bring up, but we do this for a living. We don't play DFS for a living. So asking us what contest we play and what contest you should play isn't really relevant because, like you said, we don't know. For me, like for you, I like single entry GPP tournaments. If there's a $40 single entry tournament, you can bet I'll be in it. I like to play. Unlike you, I like to play, oftentimes they'll have a 150 max entry that, the winner gets 50K. Now I might send an entry in there, but I'm not chasing the grand prize. I'm playing that with maybe my favorite lineup and hoping that I can double my money there. Just play it at one time. Sure, there's a chance to win 100 grand, but I'm not playing for that. But you, on the other hand, not you, but someone else might not care about losing $40 a night, $80 a night. They just might want to play for that big win. I can't answer that. We can't answer that.
Yep, guys. So most of the people I know, we're all going to live kind of somewhere in that middle class to upper middle class realm. But I mean, I can't tell my friends who make $250,000 a year and my buddy who's a teacher who makes significantly less than that, that they should be playing at the same level. We all have different spots in life. And while money isn't the key to happiness, if you only make X amount of dollars per year, you shouldn't be playing DFS for $500 a night. But if you make tons of money, you're just going to play in different contests. I mean, and that's okay. We're all different. We're all at different points of our lives. I have customers who are 60 and I have customers who are 18. You guys are probably at real different spots in your life financially, and you have different goals on what you want to get out of DFS. So it really does have to be a personal decision. The one thing I try to say is for cash games, I like single entry double ups. With the more entries, the better. And that's the biggest like rule I can give you. But if you play that in a $1 double up or $1,000 double up, that ultimately has to be your decision on what kind of money you feel like risking. And I don't know your financial situation. You know, like I said, I got a lot of friends who make a lot of money, and I got friends who, you know, do other things. They're teachers, and they, you know, they make a living, but they're putting in their parts of society. They don't have $1,000 a night to play in DFS. We're all in different spots. You got to make a choice based on your income and what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and you know, it just goes hand in hand with if you're you know, we, like you said, we just can't answer it. Sorry, I lost my train of thought, but now I remembered it. And it's like you always say, there's no harm in trying it out. You know, you could play a single entry tournament tonight. That's $20, say. Then you could do a 3-entry $5 one tomorrow. I think there's no harm in trying it and figuring out what you like best. Because like we always say, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You want to be doing this for the long haul. So find something you like and go with it. It doesn't matter if it takes you a week, a month, a couple months to find what you like. If you find something that you're successful at, it's worth the time.
Yeah, so like when I play my double ups tonight, I'll take my main cash lineup, my number one lineup, and let's just say I play it for $100 in double ups. I do a single entry 25, a bunch of single entry 10s and 5s and stuff like that, and I just enter it in there. Well, I'm also going to go through and I'm going to put it into a couple of single entry GPPs. Like maybe I'll take like the $9 one, the $5 one, and the $3 one, and I'll enter into all those as well. So it just depends on what you're good with and what your, you know, your financial situation is.
You know what I think is a good strategy, and we've never talked about this, but I do this sometimes. So a lot of times, you know, if you're someone like you, and a lot of people do this, they wait to make their lineups. That's a fine strategy. I personally don't do that, but I understand it more than I understand why I do it differently. Let's just put it that way. But what you could do, if you don't want the stress of figuring out what contest am I going to join, et cetera, go reserve your spots in the morning and just fill in your entries later. So then you're not even thinking about it. Just either do the same thing every day if you like it, or switch it up and just reserve them early.
And I think most people do that, but if you're new to DFS, I reserve my entries usually late morning, in the morning or something like that. But then like my wife even knows, and it's different because I do this for a living. Y'all probably can't get your wives and stuff like that to agree to that. But she knows once basketball season starts, that last hour before tip is, whether it's 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or 6:30 or whatever, it's like, honey, I got to go. And I'll go to a private part of the house. I'll go to my room or my office or whatever it might be. And I'm going to be in there on my own for that last hour beforehand, answering questions and also working on my own lineups, because that is the most important part of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time, like we've said, for NBA especially. If you don't have the time before lineups, I mean, you should not be playing for heavy money at all.
Yep. And again, just go back in the number of dollars you play for, guys. That one's like your call. So I've spent most of my life as a commission-based salesman, guys. So like I've been on both parts of the spectrum. I've had months where, you know, when any month you bring in well over 5 digits of income, you feel really, really good. You guys, I've had months where I've made zero. You know, we both started out doing siding and windows on straight commission, that kind of sales. One of the reasons we ended up talking was because we did the same thing both out of school. And guys, there was months where I made $0. And if you've ever made $0 in a month while you were also still currently employed, you're not playing for much in the way of anything. You just don't have the income to do it. And on the flip side, I've had some nice months because that's what commission sales is like. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum, guys. Like, don't chase money when money's not coming in. You know what I mean? Play safe, be smart.
And speaking of which, and it's been a while since we touched on this, how much would it suck when you worked, like literally you worked like an entire month and you still made $0? It's not like you didn't do anything. You worked. Yeah,
it does suck. Then at the same time, though, I try to remember how awesome is it when you make $5,000 in 2 hours.
It's the best.
It's great. But then you find out that you make $1,000 next month, and you're like, okay, well, I don't make $5,000 a month because this month I worked for less than minimum wage. So it goes up and down, man. If you've ever worked commission jobs, you know what I'm talking about.
For sure.
All right. Next question I wanted to address. So people ask me, how did I get started doing this? And I know you probably brought that up, Matt, when we started talking. God, it's probably almost been 6 months now at this point. So like a lot of you guys and like a lot of people, I never really liked any of my jobs. I did sales, and I didn't really even know why I got into sales, except for the fact that I like money and I'm decent with people, so I can talk to people, and I'm not really scared to go into a weird situation, which is part of being in sales. But I was never anything I was truly passionate about. I did stuff like siding and windows. I sold technology. I sold advertising, all stuff that was just a job to me. So I needed like an outlet to just kind of pursue a passion. I was just sitting around my office one day, and I just popped open and just started a Twitter account just to start talking fantasy sports with people. I knew nothing about Twitter, so I started doing that. A couple months after doing that, somebody reached out and asked me if I wanted to write for their fantasy football website. It was an unpaid job. It took me about 3 hours every Wednesday night, but I did it because I enjoyed it. And I just kind of went from there. From there, I was really liking that, but obviously I wasn't making a dollar doing this. So I wanted to find a way, even if it was just a side job where I made $50 a week, I was going to be cool with it. But then I started playing the DFS thing, and I started to get better at it and better at it and better at it. And I started realizing that most of the places I would go to find like quote unquote picks for the day, they were all garbage. And this is years ago. So we didn't have a lot of the stuff that we have now. So I figured, you know what? And I just started Googling places to look up stats on my own. And there is no greater friend to you than learning to use Google and to find this stuff and taking the time to learn it on your own. Now, a lot of you guys won't have time. That's all that I did. And then one day I had a couple of days off, and I said, I don't know how to make a website, but I can probably figure out how to do YouTube. I started making YouTube videos. The first day I got like 50 views, which was actually more than I expected. You know, within a couple of weeks, I was up to a couple hundred a day. And I had a link that you could sign up to use DraftKings for. So if you signed up for DraftKings under my link, I got a small percentage of what you played. And then I would sell lineups to people. And, you know, I was a lineup seller at one point. I haven't done that in a year and a half, but I used to sell lineups to people and just email them out to them. And that's all that it was. And it just kind of snowballed from there. It got to a point where I started doing more of this, and I was actually doing my real job, which is probably a big part of the reason I'm not there anymore. But this just kind of just snowballed. And the biggest thing I can tell you guys, and it's not just for this, but it's a great life lesson. Just do it. And there's no other rhyme or reason to just get out there and do it. And I did sales for 15 years, and I saw a lot of really bad sales reps. Not that I was great, but I was able to at least maintain my job at most places by at least doing enough. But people would come in, they get hired, and then it would always be excuses to why they couldn't cold call, why they couldn't go. Oh, I just got to study this for just a little bit more. I just got to look this up. And they would never just sit down and do it and just grab the phone and start calling people. You're going to learn on the job. You're not going to walk into anything and be great at it right away. And I've done a lot of really dumb things, you know, trying to establish this, but you'll learn through trial and error. Just do it and learn from your mistakes, and you'll get better.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know me, man, this is like one of my favorite conversations to have. And as much as I tell you as often as I can how, you know, I can't imagine doing something I love even more than this, and how grateful I am for everything that's happened. I also understand that I made this happen. So I'm grateful for you, but like you said, you got to go out and do it.
And you bugged me a lot before I finally, like, because I get so many Facebook messages a day, but you kept bugging me, and you sounded like you were really into putting your money where your mouth is, and that you were very, very driven and excited about this. And finally, I had to start responding to you a little bit more, because I can't respond to everybody who reaches out to me. I just don't have the time. But you were persistent, and persistent pays off a lot.
So I'll run through this. I'll try not to run through it and take too much time, but you know I love this. So I was just like you, man, doing a lot of jobs that I hated, but I'll even touch that in a minute. So I've always been an avid fantasy sports player. I've been playing fantasy sports my entire life. Was in a big money fantasy baseball league with my dad growing up. So always just embedded in me, loved it. Was successful playing DFS, made money. Not going to sit here and say that I could have done it full time, but was successful for a long time, made money playing DFS, made money playing fantasy. So in that, like you said, I would do as much research as I could do. I would listen to Roto Grinders, look at Roto Grinders, all that stuff, and none of the stuff would stick. I didn't like it. I didn't feel any personal connection. I thought a lot of the info they were given was junk. I knew more than them. So one day, months ago, maybe about a year ago, I was just searching for DFS stuff and came across your video. And you know this, but you know it really got me going. I was really drawn to it. Well, a couple of weeks later, you started talking about how you started to sell windows, and you know that hit home with me. When I graduated from college, I moved to Denver and was selling windows and siding for a few years, and it's rough, man. And no one who hasn't sold windows and siding knows about it. It's a very unique type position.
It is an up and down. It is more up and down than DFS. And I'm not kidding when I tell you guys that there are months when you make 15 grand in a month and you're 23 years old, you are on top of the world. But those months where you make $0, because if you make 15 grand in a month, it's great. But then when you make $1,000 the next 2 months, that ain't a lot of money. So it is an up and down roller coaster ride.
And in the meantime, like you are doing, probably a little different schedule-wise, I did a bunch of writing for different fantasy websites, for some DFS sites, for some year-long sites. I had been in talks with a guy at ESPN about working with him. It fell through. So I had always waited for the next opportunity here. I moved on from selling windows. I was doing real estate. And like you said, I decided to reach out to you. And I really wasn't going to take no for an answer. I was going to just wait till you just blocked me and ignored me, because I reached out and you were a little skeptical at first because I wasn't the first person to reach out. You know, you told me to join the Facebook groups, etc. I did, and it went well. And then we started talking more. And I made it happen. And it just goes to the human side of it. We love doing this. We talk sports literally for 15 hours a day, but we love it. It doesn't even seem like work to us. But yeah, it just brings out the human element. We're real people. I can't be more grateful for this opportunity. And because of that, I'm going to work so hard to win you guys money. And that's what we do. You always touch on this, but a big part of what we do is we play DFS and we want to win. Sure. We care so much more about how our customers do, because that's where our bread's coming from. I mean, unless we win one of these $100,000 tournaments, which, I mean, it's not.
I don't enter, so I'm never going to win it.
It's probably not going to happen. This is where we're making our money. We're having fun playing DraftKings, trying to make a living doing this. So when people ask us, oh, how can you give advice and stuff, we're not those people.
Yeah, like, I mean, again, you can look at it two different ways. I'm never gonna tout that I won the Millionaire Maker because I don't enter it. It's a terrible bet long term. Now, if you want to go for $1 million, that's where you want to spend your money. That's your personal decision, and it goes back to the choices that you make. I'm not trying to be a millionaire playing DFS. I would love it. Don't get me wrong. The idea gets me really, really excited just thinking about it. But I'm not going to enter that contest over and over again because it's not a long-term sustainable way to make money unless you really, really want to shove some money into it and eventually win. So
the guy, I'm just going to touch on this real quick because I mentioned it a little bit ago. So the guy who won the Million Maker on Sunday had 65 grand in play. And in the Million Maker, I don't know the exact number of entries he had, but it was quite a few. And when I say quite a few, I'm not talking about like 10 or 20. I'm talking about like thousands of dollars. So while that's not the case every week, if you really want to give yourself a chance to win the Million Maker, you have to be willing to spend thousands of dollars. Because if you enter one $20 entry in there, I mean,
it's a lottery ticket.
It's a lottery ticket at best.
That's all it is. It's nothing more than a lottery ticket at that point. You can be the best. You can put in solid lineups every single week, but you're gonna have to get super lucky to beat that many other people. It's just really what it comes down to. So that's, like I said, that's basically how we get started, guys. And if I can get out any message to some of my younger viewers, guys, and I've already trying to instill this in my 9-year-old son: find something that you love and make it your life. And you may not make a lot of money doing it the first few years, but I always bring the example. There's a guy I went to high school with, not a friend of mine. I mean, I'd say hi to him when I run into him or outside or around town and stuff like that. But I can tell the dude loves fishing. He started up his own fishing charter business, and every single day he's out there giving strangers tours around the Great Lakes area. And he's bringing them fishing, and that's what he loves to do. And the guy's got nothing but smiles in his face all the time. There's another girl I went to college with, and I can remember going back about 5 years ago, and all of her Facebook messages were just complaining about her email inbox, and she owned her own law firm, and she just seemed stressed out, unhappy, and miserable all the time. She closed her law practice and became a yoga teacher. Does she make the money she made before? No, she does not. Does she seem happy now? Absolutely, she does. So if there's something that you can find in life that you really, really love, make your life out of it if you can do that, especially if you're younger. It is so much easier when you're younger. Like, it's harder when you're older and married with kids. And my wife has had to be really understanding over the last few years about how busy I've been. When I was doing 2 jobs, and now that I'm doing this full time, like I said, we work 80, 90, 100 hours a week some weeks. But it doesn't feel like work because you really, really love it. So
I used to be jealous of people I would see. I was working in real estate, making good money, and I would be jealous of people that I saw doing stuff like your buddy working in fishing, doing stuff that it was so clear that they love to do, and money wasn't the factor. That's when I knew, man. And honestly, and we've gone over this a bunch, so we don't need to make this, too much on the video, but it's just, I feel blessed to have this opportunity, and that's how I honestly feel.
Yep. And I feel like if I can get one person to say, you know what, I don't have to be an accountant. I don't have to do a job I have no love for. And that they figure out that they want to, whatever it is that they really, really like. Like I brought up that fishing charter business because I live in Wisconsin. A lot of guys love fishing around here. It's not my thing, but I know a lot of dudes who just love to go fishing. He just made it happen. And that's, for me, that's all. It took a lot of hard work on this end. We still have a long way to go. But, I mean, you just jump in and just do it. So, all right, that's enough of that. Moving on. Here's one I get a lot. Most of you know it. Not everybody does. What is the difference between cash games and GPP? When people talk cash games, they're specifically talking about your double-ups, your 50-50s, your head-to-heads. If you want to summarize it real quickly, basically where half the field wins and half the field doesn't, and double your money. GPP stands for Guaranteed Prize Pool. It's your tournaments. It's where all the money tiers towards the top 20%, most specifically to the top couple of places. It's going for the big score. I don't know technically what you qualified multipliers at, but I never play those, so I'm not the right person to answer that question. I don't know what your take is on that.
I feel like multipliers are more like, I don't know. That's a good question.
Somewhere in between.
I consider them a little more GPP-ish, but maybe that's wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't play triple ups either because my thought is in order to get into the top third to make money, why wouldn't I just play in a GPP?
That's what I consider also.
To do it, where I got the real upside. Yes, there'll be nights where you can place in a triple up that maybe you would just double your money or 1.8 times your money in a GPP. But if I'm going to play something where there's upside, I'm going to play for the real upside. It's just the way that I view it.
Agreed.
Okay. Next up, what are some good websites to use to do research? So I'm also not the best person to answer this question because I don't do a ton of research through the typical DFS websites. So like for football, I don't use any websites, guys. I go through, and I'm a big nerd this way, I go and look at each box score. It's actually one of my favorite things about football is I can evaluate each and every game. So I know if a team is ranked third against the tight end, is it a real stat or is it a fraudulent stat? And you're only 5 games into the year. You can go look, and they've played a team with no good tight ends. 5 teams, no tight ends. So I know that the third ranking against the tight end has a good chance of being semi-fraudulent. So for football, I don't really have a lot of great websites because I do a lot of the research manually by looking through each box score. For basketball, you guys, if you haven't heard me mention them before, I love Basketball Monster. It is my favorite DFS website that I have. It's really the only one that I pay for. I go there for the projections, and then I go check Roto Grinders for chalk. And that's about it. Other than that, I will go look as we're getting a little farther into the year. I will use some websites for positional rankings for defense and also just for pace of play information. But by the time I learned that stuff, I got most of it in my head at that point. And then for baseball, I use a place called Daily Baseball Data that gives me a lot of like my batter versus pitcher stats. You can use your Fangraphs. I like Roto Grinders again just for the chalk. And then I like Fantasy Alarm's setup for their lineups because I like the way that I just like their layout for how they give you the starting lineups. I don't know about you, Matt. Are there any really good websites that you can give a reference to?
So there are websites I use, and I try to do a lot more of figuring out who's going to be chalky because you don't like to look at that stuff at all. This is another thing that separates us. We watch so many games that we need to look at stats to see, how people ended up. But we go off the eye test for a lot of stuff, which I think is really good because I can't remember the last night where I didn't watch hours and hours of a sporting event. With that being said, sure, Basketball Monster is a great site. I use Roto World, and it's not specifically DFS catered, but I just love the way they give their information. It's up to the minute, and they do mention specific things DFS, and a lot of people use Roto World. So when a guy is being hyped up there, he's going to be chalky. So I like Roto World. I use my ESPNs and all that stuff, Basketball Monster. But the biggest thing is the eye test. So I go off what I see.
And I use a lot of eye test. I'm a little more stats driven than you are, but that's where we've been working together late. So I've been trying to up your stats game by helping you look at some of the ways we evaluate stuff so you can work with it with your eye test. And one of the reasons you like GPP is because you play eye test more than other people who like become a slave to their statistics without any kind of like eye test that goes into it. So that's where sometimes you go off of that, and it's been helping you in GPP because you're not following all the same advice that everybody else is.
Sure, but just like anyone else, and this is what you try to. I mean, it can also. I could also be wrong because I view the eye test too much a little bit. So I'm not saying that I'm 100% right in doing it. I mean, it's worked for me, but as I've told you, and as I'll make it clear in the video, and as I think everyone should, I'm always willing to learn. I'm never going to be perfect at this. No matter if I'm doing this for 20 years, I'm always going to be still willing to learn.
Yeah, I mean, same here. The willingness to learn and admit that you can do something better. It's not just the key to this, but it's the key to life. So anytime you can better yourself in anything, I think it's a good opportunity to go out and do that. So, all right, next up, it's kind of just a blanket question, but I get this all the time. Is there any advice you can give me? Yeah, there's a good number of things. One, when you send somebody a lineup 5 minutes before tip-off, kickoff, first pitch, whatever you want to call it, and you ask for their opinions, you're not getting much from them. Because whether it's me or anybody else, nobody's ever going to care about your lineup as much as you do. And I truly care. So when you post them in one of those free Facebook groups, our groups are better because the people work together. But like the free Facebook groups, or even if you send it to somebody else 3 minutes before lineup block, you can't really expect to get much out of them because one, it's hard to criticize people. And even I don't like telling you that I don't like your pick because if they blow up, then I just look like I was wrong. Or some people don't take constructive criticism too well. So if you are going to give me your lineup and you want me to critique it, hit me up hours beforehand so I can really take a look at it because I'm getting 1,000 questions the last 10 minutes before tip-off, and I can't really help out on that one too much.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm not going to lie. I'll take it a step further. Almost anytime you send someone a full lineup, it's really hard to get good criticism because of what you just said. It's people, and not necessarily just me and you included, they might not want to be honest because they're just going to want to tell you it's good. They might not want to take the time. So sure, we're willing to do that, but that's a tricky proposition right there.
Most people are bad at taking constructive criticism. So it puts you in an awkward position, and whether it's me or anybody in our group or whatever it is, to be like, no, man, this lineup sucks. And it's hard to really talk them through it. Like I've been with my wife now for over 10 years. I can't give her an ounce of constructive criticism on anything, period. So I've just learned not to because it's just easier husbanding if I don't even try to. And that's not untypical of people. So it does put people into an awkward position. It makes it hard. So, I mean, I'll try it and I'll give you my best. And I will tell you if I don't like somebody, but it's hard for me to sit there and blatantly say like, oh, I think that's a terrible pick because I mean, I just sound like I'm kind of a jerk or something like that. So
and the other thing is like, you could feel, for us, we could feel very, very confident that so-and-so is a good play tonight or a bad play tonight. We could easily be wrong.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
Yeah. I'm wrong all the time. The perfect example is my buddy Joe, who's in our Facebook group. But I mean, I went to high school with this guy. I played poker with him just a month or two ago. I know the guy decently well. He asked me about playing Damian Lillard last night, and I was just like, no. I'm like, we have a 12-game slate. Why would you play somebody at Utah, a slow-paced, defensive-oriented team? Now, Lillard ended up having a really good game, and then it ended up being a great game because he went to overtime and piled up even more statistics. So I don't like the fact that I told him not to play Lillard, and Lillard went out and balled last night. It was awesome. So it does put people into an awkward spot. And while we're used to it and it's easier for us, it's even harder on other people who don't do this for a living. So
yeah, I think that people need to realize that when they ask us for stuff, it's almost like not necessarily as dependent on that night. So Lillard last night, you would not play him at Utah. It just was not the place to play him. So the process that you gave him for not playing him was right. It just happened to not work out. And that's going to happen to us. It's going to happen to anyone. So yeah, seems like Ryan's fixing something over there. Oh, he's back, so we're good. Computer problems?
Yeah, for some reason this outlet wasn't working, so I just switched what I was plugged into before this thing went crashing.
Okay. No, I was just saying, it's the process of you telling him not to play Lillard was correct. All you can do is the process. It's going to be wrong sometimes. Why? Honestly, from my perspective, why would you even have looked at Lillard last night in Utah? Ended up being a good call, and he played great. But if you run that slate 100 times, Lillard is a good play like twice.
Yeah, you just learned like your staple play is like going to Utah on a 12-game slate is just it's not a great place to be.
No, they had 39. It was 39 each at half.
Yeah,
so like that game continues like that. I mean, I don't know Lillard's numbers at halftime, but if you have a game that's like under 160, I venture to say his numbers aren't that good.
All right. Other things. What else can advice can you give? You got to learn to make some decisions on your own and make them confidently, because if you're only relying on other people, and again, it makes sense to pay us, to pay other people for some advice, because we do this all day long. And if you're like a normal American, you're busy, right? You got a job, a significant other, potentially kids or whatever it might be, and you can't spend all your day doing this like weekends. So it does make sense. But you got to learn a few things on your own so you can help to make those last minute pivots, especially in basketball. And guys, I cannot tell you this. Google is your best friend. And if you want to learn something, it's really, really simple. And I'm going to screen share here for a minute. So people say, like, well, where do I go to look up stuff like this? Like, I don't know, NBA pace of play rankings. And it just pulls it right up there for you. NBA stats, team first possessions, team rankings. I have never used this website before, but I just go right here and you can find the information really quickly. Get to know this website, because learning stuff like this is really going to help you up your game. If you have a question, Google it. And if you spend 10 minutes on there and you really can't find anything, well, now maybe you can ask somebody else. But Google's there for a reason. And all it takes is a little bit of time and effort on your point. I cannot tell you, and this doesn't just go for DFS. I'd have to say this actually just works true in life. The number of times I see questions on Facebook that people can answer, like I've seen questions on Facebook, what's the phone number for this place? Well, you've gone to the internet to ask a question. Why didn't you just type that into Google? If you had a question about something, you can Google it, spend a couple minutes, you're probably going to be able to find it.
You know what I compare it to? You'll like this if you want to go on, but you'll like this comparison. So you know how like when people drive with a navigation system, even if they kind of know where they're going, like if the navigation turns off, they are freak out and they have no idea what to do because they follow it like a Bible. Well, for us and for the internet, you know, people are so dependent on getting information and stuff that they literally can't make the simplest decision without confirmation from someone else.
Yeah. I mean, if you got something that makes logical sense in your mind, you know, run it out there. You can just hop on Google. And I always make this comparison. And I tell people all the time, I'm not a weatherman. I cannot tell you how to evaluate the weather. I have the same internet that you do. But when I get people like, hey, what's the weather like in Baltimore today? Like, wouldn't it have been just even easier on you? You went to the internet, type in Baltimore weather. Why are you asking somebody else to do your research? But it's not only easier to not ask somebody else, you could have gotten your answer quicker by just typing in Baltimore weather or reading the Kevin Roth report or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to take that question a step further and say, Ryan, I heard the weather in Baltimore is so-and-so. How do you feel about that? That's a completely different question than, Ryan, how is the weather in Baltimore? Because we do this for a living. We aren't weathermen. And how you're going to know how the weather is in Baltimore is the same way that anyone else is, by looking it up.
Yeah, like I talk to Kevin Roth on Twitter from time to time. He seems like a really nice dude, but he doesn't have he's a meteorologist. Even he's going to be wrong plenty of times. You know what I mean? Like, he'll give you his best opinion, but he's not always right because weather can be a little bit unpredictable. So,
yeah,
what's that?
I said Mother Nature can be a bitch, huh?
Yes, she can. So, all right, that's a couple of things. Use Google, use Google, use Google. All right. Okay, I thought this was a good one. What are your biggest challenges to doing what you do? And I got two of them that kind of stuck out to me right away. And they're both recent examples. And one of them to me is staying confident in the middle of a slump. So if we go back to last week, we had a really great week of NBA to start. NFL continues to go very, very well. So things are going well. But then last week, we had a couple of days slump on NBA back-to-back days, including a Friday night that was atrocious. Saturday night, I fell out of the money with 30 seconds to go in the last game. That didn't go well. And then NFL was not going superbly through the first half of the early slate. And so you're just down on yourself. And it's so easy to get down on yourself because I'm not just losing my own money. I'm helping other people lose, which I hate. It makes me feel sick to my stomach when stuff like that happens. Well, NFL bounces back. We end up cleaning up on the late afternoon games, so everything wins. I crushed the NFL primetime slate. I won everything on Monday. And seriously, like that, you go from your confidence being down to your confidence being up. It is tough to stay confident in the process when things are not only not going well for you, but you know that you're hurting other people's income as well. So to me, that is one of my top 3 challenges of doing this, is staying positive when you're not only hurting your own lineups, but giving bad advice to other people. And it's going to happen from time to time.
Yeah, and it's not only that, man. For us, it's rough because we're talking about this stuff all the time. So even when stuff's not going great, like there's no days off, no slates off. We're into it. So it's a grind. People don't necessarily understand that because it's fun, and it is really fun. That's why we do this. But we are spending hours upon hours researching, talking about this stuff. So when you're in the middle of a slump and your streaking isn't going that well, and it's 8 o'clock Eastern on a Tuesday night, and 2 of the guys in your 7 o'clock games have done nothing, it's tough to then already start talking about the next slate. I'm testy, you're testy. It's a bad combination, but we just push through it because we love it.
Yep, and I've seen you get testy a couple of times, and you found, though, now that you've been doing this for a couple of months with me, that we're going to have rough patches. Everybody does. It's the nature of the beast. It's an impossible game not to have rough patches in.
And that goes into the loyalty of your customers, which is a big reason that I wanted to be part of your team. Before I talked to you, I had watched and looked at all the stuff I could, and the thing that separates us and you used to be you, but now us, is the family that we have and the community. No one else offers that. So that's why I feel a little bit better, because I know that we have a really good support group. And as long as we're usually right, we'll be okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to happen. So this is a busy time of the year for us with a lot of new customers. And when you hit a couple-day rough patch for NBA to start the year, it's going to happen. And then I get 3 emails over a 2-day span that 3 people canceled their service. And it's because the first 3 days they were here were the worst 3 days that we've had in a really long time. And I can't say that I blame them. I mean, if I signed up for a service and the first couple of days were terrible, I would think, man, that was a waste of money. I'm going to cancel my payments right now too. And that can add to it as well. And it's like, I can't look at those guys and be like, oh, why would you leave? I'd be like, I'd probably leave too. If I hopped on and I paid for something and the first couple of days were junk, I mean, that would be my natural instinct as well. So, what am I supposed to say to them? Oh, you're making a bad decision, because all the information they have after a couple of days is not great information. So it is tough. It is tough to stay confident, but I've done it long enough now where it's a little bit easier because I've seen both sides. And I cannot thank our family and our customer base enough, because we get like next to very little negative feedback from them, especially some of these guys who have been around for a few years, who have been there for the ups and downs. I mean, for any of you guys out there that have been around for a long time and you guys talk me through a little bit of sums, man, I owe you guys. And I have actually been really steadily surprised by how much positive feedback you get versus the negative. Like on a given day, like the thumbs up versus the thumbs down videos on the YouTube video is probably like a 25-to-1 ratio. And for the people that go around and thumbs down YouTube videos, I mean, the life's full of trolls. What are you going to do, right? It happens. It's almost all positive feedback. I've been like really, really, really happy about that. And it's really just made me feel better about the world that we live in a little bit, because this is an area where you're messing with people's money. I expected more negative feedback from people than I've gotten. It's really just a few bad apples. It's mostly all positive things from people. And I owe you guys for that. So thank you for that. That allows you to work through some of these rougher times, is when people are really understanding and cool. So I owe you guys, the paying customers, everybody, for helping me keep my confidence up in those rough times.
So you touch on this sometimes, but I mean, I can't tell you how true it is. So there's almost nothing better for me right now than reading a post from one of our customers thanking us for how well they did last night. That really like just makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I have a purpose. Makes me feel like I'm actually, I feel good anyways, but that gratification and that confirmation, there's nothing like it right now.
Mm-hmm. And it's like I'm serious, it's better than 10-to-1 positive remarks and negative. And I know when we have bad nights, and never do I open up the Facebook groups and see like, oh, I can't believe we lost again. Like, this sucks. Like, that's when people who lose and complain, like, we don't allow a lot of that. But even then, it's mostly people who are pretty capable of making their own decisions and have gone out their own. They're not sitting there blaming us. They're big boys and girls, and they know what they're doing, and they're more just mad at themselves more than anything. So,
that was another point that I wanted to make, that and isn't necessarily a question, but it's something we get a lot. And I know that we talk about this all the time. So just as a blanket statement, me and you, we know what's happening. So I love getting feedback from guys, what's happening here. Why is this guy, whatever's happening with a player, almost always we know. So we like the feedback, but I know, speaking for myself, I don't need constant updates because I'm watching everything all the time.
Yeah, this is true. I sometimes I'll get like, we'll talk about a guy at 9 in the morning on our video, and then somebody comments on the YouTube video like 6 hours later, like, oh, Lillard's not playing tonight. I'd be like, yeah, I know. Like, that happened 3 hours after we made the video and 3 hours ago. But thanks, but don't waste your time. All right, next up, another challenge for me, and this one I try to work on but it's part of just being human. It is occasionally losing my cool or being short with people. And what it really comes down to is when I get 80 questions 10 minutes before a lock, and it's like we find out that LeBron is sitting. I don't need 12 messages letting me know. I'm working on it, but it takes me more than 1 second to get a post out there with updates and stuff like that. And if I'm ever short with people, my deepest apologies. I try not to be, but I am a human being, and that is a part of the human condition. And I try to work on it. And I try not to be short with people. And I know it's a weakness that I have from time to time. But if I do that, it's really just the stress of getting the same question 12 times in a row. And then somebody asks me what the weather's like in Baltimore. And I don't freak out on them, but you're going to get a one-word answer. And if it seems like it's a little condescending, my deepest apologies. It's something I try not to do, but it does come out from time to time in that type of situation.
Yeah, so I guess putting it best is we'd much rather have you ask a question than be scared to ask it. But just to understand that some questions when we're really busy, and again, it is something you need to work on, but you've got a lot of great qualities. So just know that deal with that. I mean, it is what it is. You're human.
Yeah, so I try not to do it, but it does happen. And that's usually the time period where it does happen. So
I need to work on being more prompt.
Yeah. I always joke. I got two wives now. I got Matt and I got my real wife because I'm always waiting for both of them.
Yeah.
But so, like I said, continue to try to get better on that one. But I think it's important that you identify some of your weaknesses, and that's a weakness of mine. Almost nobody's ever pointed it out to me, but they've probably quietly been thinking it. So, okay. And sometimes it's going to be the same people who ask you 45 questions a day. I just can't answer 45 questions a day. And again, we've already hit on this one as one of the other big challenges. It's talking off people off bad picks. And then when you find out they excel, you feel kind of bad about it. But that's part of it. So, okay. What's the most important things to look at? Okay. So I actually, if you guys remember a couple of weeks ago, we had our buddy Devin on here. He's one of the Facebook admins for one of the bigger Facebook groups. And it's not the exact answer he gave, but I liked his answer because I thought he had an acronym that he used, but I don't remember what it was. But for basketball, I'm looking for one. Is it going to be a close game? That's one of the most important things. 2, pace of play. Pace of play is giant. Give me a game that's going to be up and down the floor. It's just more opportunities for points. Injuries is gigantic in basketball because once a guy like a Mike Conley goes out, you saw a Chalmers and a Tyreek Evans last night, for example, absolutely kill it. To me, those are 3 of the most important things in that. Time on the floor. And then I always tend to look more at team defense versus individual defense because you don't know who's going to guard who. And unless there's like a few matchups where maybe Kawhi is going to blanket somebody, there's only a few like individual defenders that I'm even really scared of. And then lastly is skill. That's something you forget about. And I love Devin's example he brought up. Just because Kyle Singler is filling in for Victor Oladipo for the Oklahoma City Thunder last night, like Kyle Singler still sucks. He's not going to score 40 points. So just because he's filling in and is a good spot, is this guy any good? And if he's not any good, it's why somebody asked me last night, Chalmers or Jason Smith. I'm like, Chalmers all day and every day and twice on Sunday. He's just a better basketball player in a better spot, and he's a point guard versus just a guy who might take a couple of jumpers.
Yeah. So I just noticed one thing you didn't mention there, which we get a lot, is it does not matter if someone is starting or coming off the bench.
Yes, thank you. That's a great point.
They're getting minutes. And to your point, I get annoyed by that because like last night, did you play Mike Scott?
A little bit, yeah.
So I just couldn't do it because I just don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's very good at basketball. So sometimes that can work for you and sometimes it can't, but that's just the nature of the beast. You know what I mean? It just is. So I was wrong there, but I'd still do that same play again because of what we talked about.
So the 3 guys that I thought at the Wizards or the couple of guys, I thought it could be good for Wall. Thought it could be good for Beal. I thought it could be good for Oubre, who ended up being terrible. And then Mike Scott was the other guy that I kind of liked because he is actually a pretty decent point per minute guy. And I thought that he had an opportunity to fill in. And I forget which one of our customers brought that up. And I said right away, I like Mike Scott as one of the guys that I like on this game. So, different opinions, different times. But I do like what you said. To reiterate off of that, people freak out if a guy isn't starting. There are so many times when being on the second unit can be better.
Hell yeah.
Higher usage when you're not playing with the other stars. If you're playing with John Wall and Brad Beal, you are, best case scenario, 3rd on the pecking order, and more realistically, 4th or 5th.
Yeah, I mean, it really makes no difference. And a lot of times, just because you start doesn't mean you're going to finish the game. And I look much more at who's finishing the game.
Exactly. Okay. Number 8, what do you attribute to your success? So I can bring this up to a couple of things. One, working at it. I do it all day, every day. Reevaluating yourself on a day in and day out basis, what you're doing better. But the thing that I get the most, and that I would probably have to say is probably the biggest difference between us and some of the other places out there, just being honest. And I got another comment on a YouTube video today just saying, I love how honest you guys are. You guys, I'll come out here and I'll own it when I'm wrong and when I do something poorly and when I'm bad. And then, I'll get a little braggy when we do something right. But I just try to be completely transparent. It's the number one thing that I've heard over the last 3 years that people say why they chose to spend some money with us. And they're like, you just seem like you're telling the truth and you're a genuine dude, and that you're being real with us. Whereas like the other people come out every single day and just tell me to start all the most expensive guys. And then they come in the next day and they talk about how much money they won, but they never tell us what they played or how they played it. They just seem like they're full of it, whereas you guys seem like you're real. Or for a long time, just like Ryan, you seem like you're real. But that was one of the reasons I thought that you could work with me, Matt, is you didn't seem like you were completely full of BS and that you just were going to be genuine. And I want to be upfront and I want to be honest with people because I just don't lie almost ever, period. Because to me, it just creates, I'm fine if somebody doesn't like me, but I don't want to sit around and try to remember what I'm lying about, what I'm telling the truth about. I always just feel it's easier to tell the truth. If somebody doesn't like you or somebody doesn't want to pay you, whatever, there's somebody else out there you can talk to.
Yeah, this goes into me and you are so similar in so many ways, but we're so different, which just makes us such a good team. You are so matter of fact, and I'm much more of an emotional type person. But we both are big on telling the truth and not lying. That was a huge thing when we first started talking. What you offer is not only DFS. What we offer now, excuse me, it takes me a little while to even say that, is not just DFS advice. A lot of people like the videos on the life advice, the sports betting, the community feeling. It's way more than DFS. And I can say what I think attributes to most of our success is, like you said, the time that we spend. I'm up late every night watching games, researching till 1, 2 a.m. I'm up at 6:30, 7, just doing the same thing. I mean, we spend all day doing this stuff, like literally all day.
Yep, I take a little time to spend with my children, but this is all that I do all day, every day. And I was even talking to my son about this last night on the way home from wrestling practice. I go, honestly, son, my end goal is in a couple of years, I want us doing this show and helping out with evaluation, but I want to pay somebody else to do the write-ups, to do a lot of the communication with the customers, and I want to reap the rewards for the hard work we put in. Is that going to happen? I have absolutely no way of knowing, but I go, that's my end goal. But it's going to take a lot of hard work up front because I was bringing him to his wrestling camp last night, and he doesn't like this wrestling camp because the coaches there, I mean, they're not super nice, but they're good at what they do. They make the kids put the work in, and they're hard on them, and that's good for him when it comes to the sport of wrestling. And I was giving him that comparison. I'm like, if you bust your butt, you know how much better it is you feel when you win your wrestling match versus when you lose? And he gave me that big kid smile where he's like, yeah, because he likes to win. I go, well, you got to put the time in now and work your butt off doing stuff you don't like, or you're not going to win those. I go, that's why mom and dad make you go out and go running while you're in cross country, so that you can get good at stuff like this. It takes the work up front to reap the rewards later on. And I gave the comparison to him. Like, you know how grandpa has a lot of money? I'm like, grandpa still makes good money, but he doesn't really work anymore. Why? Because he spent his 20s, 30s, and his 40s building his financial advisor business so that later in life he could reap the rewards. I'm like, I know we're working 100 hours a week now, but we're doing it so that we have something that we love, something that we can, be proud of. And maybe in a couple of years, we're not working 100 hours a week anymore, but we're still seeing the financial rewards and just the life rewards that we want to get out of something like this.
For sure. So just 2 points on that. So I'll even take it a step farther with what you said, your son. So not only how much better you're going to feel if you put in the work and you win. If I put in the work and I lose, I'm okay with it because I put in the work. If I don't put in the work and I still try to give advice and you guys aren't having success, that's when I have a real problem. And to your other point about us working 80, 100 hours a week, I was never that guy. When I sold windows, it was long and it sucked, and it was doing a presentation for 3 or 4 hours in a house, but you were doing 1 or 2 of those a day. So you're working a normal amount of days, probably even a little bit less than 40 hours in some weeks. I never was that guy. that wanted to work 100 hours. It's just my family's more important to me. Now, literally, we could be working 200 hours a week, and it's just so much fun. It just goes on to your point of do what you love, because when you do what you love, the saying is true, you're not working a day in your life.
Exactly. So if my dogs start barking, my wife's just walking in right now. I thought we'd be done before she got home, but well, actually they're being good for once, so we go with that. All right, next up, people ask us sometimes, do you play DFS full time? No, we run our business full time. We play DFS. And Matt, you probably play for more than I do, but playing DFS full time just off the money you win, there's not a lot of people that do that. There are some. And I even got some guys in my group that this is what they do individually for money for a large portion. There's another one of our admins who was telling me the other day he's actually going to quit his job here in the next couple of months to do this full time and just play. But there aren't a lot of people that play DFS full time. You truthfully need a really big bankroll in order to do that. You probably need to be in a life situation where not a lot of us are, where you don't have a ton of responsibilities or a lot of debt or anything like that, because things can change in a heartbeat. But no, we don't play DFS full time. I don't play for big money. I play for some, but I'm not in there for thousands of dollars a day or anything like that. What it really takes in order to do this for a living, it's not an easy thing to do. I always found playing poker for a living back in the day was significantly easier than playing DFS for a living.
So just to touch on that for a second. So not only do we not play DFS for a living, it's actually even a step further than that. Because we give advice for a living, it makes it too hard to play for a significant amount of money every night. So I've definitely scaled down how much I play DFS wise. No, I'm not a few $1,000 a night type of guy. If I have a couple $100 in play, that's a lot for a night. It just is the risk outweighs the reward for me, because I'm not trying to get rich doing that. I'm trying to get rich with what I do.
I look at it this way too. Like, I'm trying to support a family off of a straight commission business that I started that you never even really know if like DFS were to just disappear one day. So I got enough stress right there that like if I bet $100 on a night, if I lose, I lose, right? I'm not going to cry about it. But if I were to have, say, 10 grand in play, oh my God, I would be sweating bullets all night long, and I wouldn't even enjoy it.
Exactly.
I mean, I know some people need that rush, and don't get me wrong, I get it. I love the rush like everybody else. The rush is fun. It's part of the reason we do it. I love adrenaline. I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. I get that part, but I can't do that to myself every single night. I'm getting to be older. My heart couldn't handle that.
No, and the other thing is, as we talk about, and I'll come out with a video on this later on, I do like to partake in my sports betting a little bit. So I don't like to have too much action on any night at all. So I really try to, and that's what you just said is the perfect way. If you have too much money on the plate, on the table, it starts to be not fun. So that's one thing that I'm very good at. It's really not pressing and just having fun with it.
Yeah, you got to find the middle ground. Like, if I just play quarter arcades and $3 double ups, it's not enough for me to really care about it.
Right.
But if I were to put, I keep telling myself, because I've profited at almost every single NFL slate since well over a year ago, that I should play for more, because it seems like free money to me. I just don't have the stones to do it. And the couple times that I've played more for, if I played for 500, 600, 700 or something like that, it has scared me too much. And I just haven't been able to enjoy the slate as much as I'd like to. And I enjoy this. I play DFS because it's fun. Yes, I do want to win some money doing it. Yes, I enjoyed the W-2 at the end of the year. Yes, I enjoyed buying a fridge and taking my wife to Vegas after one of our bigger wins before. But it's too much stress for me. Can't handle it.
The other thing is, as much research as we do, it's still like, for last Friday night, Beal and Draymond got ejected. You get an ejection, an injury. Like, that's why it's really ballsy, and I see these tournaments that are like, $5,000 tournaments or whatever they are. That shit is ballsy to me, just because of what I just said. Like, the injury factor, any random occurrence factor for that one night.
Yeah, every once in a while, since I don't go out, maybe I'll spend a little extra on a Friday night.
Sure.
Because why not? I'm not going out drinking. I'm not going out to dinner or anything like that. Maybe I'll throw a few hundred extra down just because I want to be more excited. But it's pretty rare, man. I usually keep it pretty simple. During the height of NBA season, I may be in there for 100, 150, 200 a night, but I'm not even to that point yet this season.
If I have $100 on the table right now on a night for the NBA, it's a lot. I'll have between 50 and 80 usually, and if I'm going well, I might do a little bit more than that. But like last night, I told you I did a $40 single entry, and I did a $20, $60 in play, and I was happy with it.
Yeah, and I play more in NBA than I do in MLB. I just find MLB the hardest to replicate.
MLB is definitely my biggest, but I just like it the most.
Yeah, and I play MLB the lowest. Like football, because it's a one-day thing, gets the highest, then NBA, and then MLB. MLB, I don't play for nearly as much. I just find it the hardest to replicate. And I feel like I'm just passing it back and forth. Win 20 today, lose 20 the next day. Win 50 today, lose 50 the next day.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And with the rake, you're really getting screwed.
And that kind of brings us to the last question. How much do you spend and how much should I spend? Again, can't answer how much money you should spend. I have, like I said, my friends, just in my personal life, there's a vast discrepancy between like incomes and stuff like that. That's totally up to you. And then, you know, like we've talked about, we've both been on both sides of things before. I've had points where, you know, I'm the friend with money and I've had to, you know, pay for my friends to go out and do stuff. And I've been on the opposite end where I've been, you know, searching for quarters in my couch just to go buy a taco at Taco Bell just in order to eat. So I've been on both sides of the spectrum before. And I know what it feels like to be on both ends of it. You got to bet what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and to that point, unless you're really doing this and you're amazing at it and you can do it for a living, sure, you want to make a little money doing this, but it's for fun. And you're not doing this to get rich. You're doing it to have fun. And if you end up making a decent amount of money, a few $100 at the end of the year, a few $1,000 at the end of the year, and you've had a lot of fun playing, you're in a great spot.
And that being said, if you're good enough to make a lot of money doing it, do your thing. All more power to you. I encourage it. I think it'll be awesome.
Hit me up. If you're that good at it, hit me up on send me a private message.
Yeah, exactly. If you are killing it, man, I'd love to hear your opinion. And a lot of times it doesn't mean they know more about sports. They've learned more about DFS. The two things are different. Sports evaluation is one thing. Being good at DFS, learning how to enter multi-entry, how to diversify a little bit, playing percentages versus just playing one guy, a little bit different. And everybody's got different theories. And there's probably some really cool stuff out there that I've never even heard of before.
That's why I think it's really nice that just the different perspectives that we give.
Yep. And the people in the groups too. I mean, especially like in the bigger group where it's been guys who have been playing for years. And that's like with some of the newer, smaller groups, we're trying to build that core group of players so people feel comfortable and feel more personal. But especially like in the big groups, some of these guys have been doing this for 3 years. I bet you there are guys in the groups that know just as much, if not more than we do. And they get to do more research and they don't have to spend all their time doing their own manuals research. So it's just part of the community.
For sure.
All right, guys. So we just thought we'd throw that out there. Just some of the questions we get commonly. It's such a short day of NBA that wanted to take some extra time to talk over some other stuff. Good luck tonight, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
I'll be coming out with a small betting video later, but neither are the NBA games, so watch out for it.
Okay, guys. So if you want that, look down in the description section below. Like my fantasy sports page on Facebook, the business page, but then follow Matt on YouTube because he's going to start doing more sports betting stuff. And if that's something you like, he knows way more about that than I do. So he's going to build his brand on his own channel. There's going to be days where I'm on vacation or gone where some of the DFS stuff will come from him. So just go subscribe to him right there, and that'll work.
All right, guys.
All right, peace out.